What's going on YouTube? It's TH back again with another video, and today we're going over my finalized 2024 big board. We're going over my top 100 players. Really excited to bring this video your way. I had a couple of people in the last mock request it, so hey, I'm already putting out position rankings. It's just a few more graphics to make, so why not? And that way you guys can hold me accountable. We're gonna go in set to 10, and there's a lot of these names where it's like, well, you should nudge them up one. Yeah, sure, you could nudge them up one spot. So it's pretty subjective. It's almost easier to just look at, pages of 10 pages at a time, or excuse me, pages of 10 players at a time, and look at that as like almost a bundle, or even just kind of set to 5. But I'll make note, you'll even see some positions, guys from the same position, kind of one on top of another, just because I think they're very similar. I have them in a similar tier from the position ranking videos, stuff like that. So yeah, with all that down, let's go ahead and jump into it. Players 1 through 7, they're in blue because these are my blue chippers, and it's rare to have 7 blue chippers in this class, but Drake May and Caleb Williams, 2-1 respectively. I like both these guys a ton. I've kind of gone back and forth, but the more I watch of Williams specifically playing within structure, the more confident I feel that he can do that when asked to do it at the next level. So I think this is a true Burrow, Herbert type of situation, 2 slam dunk picks. It's clear who I would do and who I would take at 1 and 2. Marvin Harrison Jr., sorry I had to abbreviate here just to make sure it all fit, but we all know him as Jay. Yeah, the best receiver in this class. Not much ahead of Neighbors. I do think Neighbors brings a little bit more explosiveness, but the floor is just so high with Marvin Harrison Jr., and the body control is fantastic. They're going to do 2 different things, and their skills are going to be kind of different in that regard, but yeah, 2 clear-cut number 1 receivers. Joe Alt then kind of breaks up the receivers a little bit. He's been my tackle 1 throughout this entire process. Think he can play in gap, think he can play in zone, love the size, and just now turning 21 years old too. I think this guy's only going to keep getting better. Roma Dunze gets us back on here, and yeah, big Roma Dunze guy. Been one of my top receivers through this entire draft cycle. Love the physical nature and his back shoulder ability on the sideline. I think he's got a route tree that's super diverse. More explosive athlete than people want to give him credit. He's not Neighbors, but I think people kind of sleep on his athleticism, and the combine kind of, I think, backs me up on that. So yeah, love Roma Dunze. Any other year, him or Neighbors are pretty easily receiver 1, and it just so happens that there's a class where not only Rome has to deal with Marvin Harrison Jr., but he's also behind Neighbors, so just a crazy receiver group at the top. And then Brock Bowers. This one was tough because I do weigh position value, but I was going to originally have, I think, Bowers at 10, but then I was like, you know what? There's, as much as I weigh position value, blue chippers exceed that. You draft the blues. So, even as a tight end, I had to put him up here at 7. Man, just the best tight end that I've ever scouted. The yards after catch ability, the middle of the field prowess, the route running to beat man, the football IQ to sit in soft spots and zone. Man's a complete package, and I think the blocking's going to hold up more than enough the next level. And then Byron Murphy, and look, like I said, there's not many classes with 7 blue chippers. I almost made it 8 for Byron Murphy, but a lot of his juice last year came in the last 6 games, so it's kind of a hot finish to the year, and there were definitely flashes in 2022 as well. But it kind of all came together as this top interior defensive lineman down the stretch last year. So he's just a hair below this blue chip tier, but blue chips are rare, and again, you don't normally have 7 in a class. I think last year I had 3, so yeah, pretty rare. And Murphy's just a tick below that, but I still love him. Top defensive player on the board here, so let you know how much I like Byron Murphy and the kind of game-changing ability I think he brings from the interior defensive line. Leatu Latu, look, he's either on your board or he's not. I'm not a doctor, so he's on my board, and I just don't know how you look at him and not say, dude, this is as complete a pass rusher we've seen over the last half decade. I mean, full arsenal of moves to use. The hand fighting's advanced. I think the in-game athleticism is a whole lot more flashy than what maybe the combine testing was, and I think those numbers were better than people were expecting. So big Leatu Latu fan. Troy Fautanu my tackle too. I just love the movement skills. Think he's got a strong enough base to sit and anchor. So gap or zone, I really like him in the zone scheme. You see him kind of leading the way on run concepts at Washington, and it's hard not to get excited. And honestly, that's where if you move him to guard, I'm not going to be mad about it, because him paving the way for your running back is going to be a recipe for success. But yeah, I know Pac-12, pass rushers weren't super juiced. He doesn't face Braylon Trice because he's on the same team, and Latu's kind of the other, him and the other UCLA edge guys had a lot of production. But that's kind of the one other school that immediately jumps to mind, and you're like, yeah, that's a school in that conference with a ton of edge talent. And I guess Utah too, but with Jonah Ellis. But nevertheless, the more I watch Troy Fautanu, the more I like him, and man, that movement's going to play. And once I I got the arm length checked out, I was like, oh, yep, there we go. This guy's going to be a tackle. All right, next group of guys, Cooper DeJean, my top corner. I really like him in the slot, man. I think with the return rules, too, you're going to see a boost in his value there. But I think as he continues to rehab, man, I don't think we're having any concerns about his change of direction skills. He's straight line fast for sure. Multi-sport athlete. I am a little biased towards those guys. I think it brings out a little bit more of a competitive edge. And big Cooper DeJean guy. Jax Powers-Johnson. I've said that he's my top center prospect. I don't know if I've ever given a blue chip grade to a center, though. So he was close, and I kind of thought about that same thing I did with Brock Bowers. But again, if I give Jax Powers-Johnson blue chip, if I give Byron Murphy blue chip, then it's like, okay, we're just dishing these out to everyone. I had to have a line where I drew it, and Bowers was at the end of it. So thought about it, but also a younger guy, just turned 21. I think he's going to continue to get better and better over the course of his rookie contract. But the play strength's there, the movement skills are fantastic. Guard center flexibility, big JPJ guy. Talise Fawanga, really like him from a right tackle perspective. Could see him being a successful guard. The arms are a little short, but if you're over 33 inches, I'm not too concerned about it. I like the footwork, specifically in the run game and zone concepts, getting to the second level, and I think he's going to hold up from a pass pro standpoint. A couple more corners, Terrion Arnold, Quinyon Mitchell. I'm not going to knock you if you have them the other way around. I just love the lateral movement skills, and again, I prioritize slot probably more than any other guy on YouTube or just really anybody talking about it. I think it's going to become the cornerstone of the NFL secondary in 5 years, and furthermore, maybe the cornerstone of an NFL defense. I just think it's harder to, if you take away the middle of the field, it's harder to scheme guys open working along the sidelines. And Gardner Minshew can attack the middle of the field, but only the elite guys can consistently win on the perimeter. I think that's going to be the way the league kind of weeds out elite quarterbacks versus like so-so quarterbacks that can do enough to win games. They got enough moxie. Again, kind of your Gardner Minshew, your Jacoby Brissett's of the world, where they do enough attack in the middle of the field, they keep you in the game, they convert enough third downs, they stay alive. I think with emphasis on the slot, you're not going to give them any of those easy stuff over the middle of the field, and you're going to force them to win on the outside, and we're going to see a big gap then from elite guys to so-so guys. But anyways, different tangent for a different video. I'll have that linked up here if you want to hear me talk more about the value of the slot, but I'd love to have Arnold there, so that's where I kind of give him a little bit of an edge. Also like Bama over Toledo for sure. I know Quinyon was great at the Senior Bowl, but you could have a good week, So Arnold, I think, had a great season, so I do want to give him a bump there. But love the frame, love the athleticism. Quinyon Mitchell's still a top 15 player on my board, so do not take this as me knocking him down or anything like that. Johnny Newton just behind him. I do think he's a little, light. I think technically his weight at the combine was a little bit more, but he also wasn't doing any athletic testing, so he can just kind of add mass if that's a concern, right? Byron Murphy's out there trying to run a 4.68 40 and did just that. 93rd percentile, so I think they had competing values there going into the combine, right? Newton trying to say, yeah, I can get bigger, I can get more mass, and then Murphy's trying to lose weight so he can show, man, dude, I'm an explosive athlete. So truly, I think Newton probably plays at 295 to 300 at the next level. Byron Murphy 305 to 310, so not a huge difference. But anyways, love the first step explosiveness with Newton, and that makes him just a headache, both in the pass rush game, but also as a run defender, man. He's shooting gaps with the best of them, and in a lot of ways, he has just willed. 2 years ago, Illinois' defense was pretty solid. Quan Martin's a good player. Devon Witherspoon's a freak, and you have Johnny Newton. Last year, it was like Johnny Newton trying to will that defense to any sort of stops he could get and try to put on points on the board for, unfortunately, a tougher year for Illinois. Brian Thomas Jr., Adonai Mitchell. I like these guys both a lot. Both field stretchers with an abundance of speed with a big frame, so there's a lot to like in both these guys. It's going to come down to, do you think Brian Thomas Jr. can expand his route tree? I think he can. Or do you think A.D. Mitchell can become a more consistent route runner? He's going to be giving it all on every single rep. I think he can do that too. I just see the wiggle in Thomas, and I'm like, yeah, I for sure think he can add routes to his route tree. I haven't talked to Adonai Mitchell, so I don't know where the effort and all that stuff is at. And I know that's not necessarily fair because I'm speculating on Thomas and then not giving Adonai Mitchell that same speculation, but I think there's one thing to look at tape and say, yeah, okay, I think he has room to grow in this area, and I think he's got the ability to do that. If I haven't talked to the guy, I have no way to measure, that personality and what I think he can or can't do at the next level. So Thomas does get the bump there, but they're both in the top 18. Love these guys a lot. Dallas Turner then edge 2, like the upside. I could see a world by the back half of his rookie deal, he maybe is the best edge rusher of this class, and we've already seen him make some progress at Bama, adding inside counters and adding a little bit more weight and that kind of strength that comes with that to his profile. And I think another year or two of doing just that, I think this guy could become a full package edge rusher. Michael Penix Jr. is here at 20. Jaden Daniels is on the next slide at 21. Like these guys a ton. I do think they're both going to need the system that maximizes what they do well. I think Williams and May they become the offense, and it's all about, like, hey, how do we maximize this? And that's the case with every quarterback. But, like, Bo Nix, if he goes to Denver, you're plugging him in that Sean Payton offense, and that's what excites you. It's not Bo Nix, oh my God, yes. It's, Bo Nix and a Sean Payton offense. Okay, that's intriguing. And, I think the same thing about, Michael Penix going to New England. I'm like, okay, we'll see. But I don't know how much he's going to elevate that situation. You plug him in at Minnesota and Kevin O'Connell, and it's like, they got good tackles, they got good receivers. And now I'm excited about this, So hopefully that illustrates my point. Penix, Daniels, I think they're both in that tier 2 just because I don't think they exceed the scheme. They're going to need the right scheme to take them to that next level. That being said, if they get into that right scheme, they could easily become top 10 quarterbacks. So that's kind of where that's what differentiates tier 2, tier 3 for me. But I think Penix is the best pocket passer of the class. I love Jaden Daniels and his athleticism. I don't remember who I heard say this, but kind of Jalen Hurts, minus some power and just putting on speed instead. I can definitely see that. I also think the RG3 comps that have been out there, I can see that too. So Washington fans, plug your ears if he's the pick at 2. But yeah, super freak athlete. We've seen him get better and better over the course of his college career. Goes from the Pac-12 to the SEC, handles that jump in competition. I like when players do that, so I like Daniels. And think, hey, if he goes in the top 10, I'm fine with that. Oli Fashanu, like the pass protection upside that he brings. He's done a great job at Penn State the last 2 years as a pass protector. It's just going to come down to how you feel about that 0 percentile hand size and how much of an emphasis do you have in the run game. If you're not too worried about it, or if you have other guys you can run behind, then I think plugging in his pass protection skills is a big W there. And ultimately, you're going to win games through the air. So let's prioritize that pass protection over that run blocking. Ladd McConkey, Jalen Polk. McConkey's kind of the end of the receiver tier 2. Polk's the beginning of receiver tier 3, but it's pretty close. I think McConkey's floor is just so high. I think Jalen Polk really plays the position well. I think he's got the savvy that you talk about with some of these guys, where it's like, yeah, they don't wow you with athleticism, but they just know how to play the position, soft spots in zone, sharp enough route running. They don't drop anything. All those little things that kind of make up into a pretty solid receiver. Ladd McConkey, I think, has a little bit more athletic juice, and I mean, the combine shows that he's got more athletic juice. So I think he can be used more as a deep threat, which is a huge plus, and part of why he's a little bit ahead of them, and part of the reason he's in that next tier up above, where Polk doesn't do anything wrong, McConkey doesn't do anything wrong, and he's got an extra gear speed, so he gets the leg up on Polk. JJ McCarthy, so you can see here, you're kind of mid to late first round, I'm fine with it, and then he's going to get half round bump. So if he made it to 12, if I'm Denver, I'm sprinting the card in. If he made it to 11, it's maybe a little rich, but kind of in that same range where I'm like, yeah, if he made it there to 11 for Minnesota and you get to pick at 23, hard not to be excited about that. But we're going to ultimately see. I think he's going to go in the top 6, and that's a little rich for my blood, but nevertheless, there's a lot of upside there, and character carries a lot of weight with these NFL teams, and I don't get to talk to these guys. So, if I got to talk to JJ McCarthy, that might be enough to kind of swing me more into his favor. Grant Barton comes in at 26, really flexible offensive lineman, one of the best run blockers. I do worry about his play strength when it comes to guys getting into his chest. What's that anchor look like in the next level, especially if he's going to play on the inside. But otherwise, I've loved his play at tackle in the ACC, and I think especially from the movement skill standpoint, get this guy into his own scheme, playing guard or center, and you're going to see a lot of success in the run game. Jared Verse, not a bendy guy, but straight line, linear, explosive power rusher. So if your team maybe has that bendy guy and you're looking for that straight line bull rush right through a offensive tackle, Jared Verse is your guy. Kool-Aid McKinstry then at 28, a lot of length, a lot of playing experience. It's a really fun combination. Also, the 40 time checks out and kind of puts those concerns to bed too. So, but if Nick Saban's trusting you as a true freshman to play, you're a guy I got my eyes on. J.C. Latham, another Bama guy here, could definitely play guard year 1, but if he's at 340, I'm not too worried about his explosiveness and ability to play at tackle. And I think he's got plenty of play strength too. So even at 340 versus 360. So again, I think 340 is the right weight for him. You get to see more of that explosiveness out of his stance that you saw 2 years ago. Sometimes he's a little sluggish in 2023. Marius Mims, a ton of ability. It's just going to come down to availability. But if he's on the field, this guy is going to be one of the best tackles in this class. I think he's a more developed Broderick Jones in a lot of ways. It's just he only played 8 games, which is almost counterintuitive to the point. You would think, he only played 8 games. He's probably a more raw Broderick Jones. No, really. I mean, I think he knows how to play the position. I think offensive line, we don't talk about it as a skill position, but there is an inherent skill that you need to have to play that position. I think Mims has got more of that skill than Broderick Jones did by the time he was drafted last year. Jordan Morgan, just outside the top 30. I'm calling him interior offensive lineman. He could definitely play tackle, depending on who he goes to. I'm cool with it. Like if the Ravens take him and want to move him to right tackle, fine with it. Chiefs take him. I'm assuming they have a plan in mind, and I'm fine with that. But I just think my preference would be like left guard, and like specifically a team like sticking with the back half of the first round here. San Francisco, you play him at left guard. He's a huge upgrade over Aaron Banks, one. But two, him next to Trent Williams. I mean, I don't know what you do to stop that left side run game that San Francisco would be able to implement. That would be scary. Nate Wiggins, super athletic. It's just going to come down to the frame. But I will say, like, he's, just now turning 21. Over the next 4 years, he's going to continue to add mass, add muscle. And if you tell me he gets to 185, 190, and, he's still running, 4.35, I'm totally fine with his skills. Love the flexibility on and off coverage, man zone. I think he can do a lot of different things for a defense. And for a team that needs like an influx of speed, Nate Wiggins is going to be a guy they key in on. Then Ricky Pearsall, I think he's got an inside-out flexibility, field stretching ability, great hands, and one of the best three cones of any of the receivers this year. So you see that suddenness as a route runner too. I think he could, I'd like to see him add another 5-10 pounds to kind of fill out that frame. But man, if he does that, we're talking about a guy that he's, I think it was EJ from the Bootleggers, Bootleg Football podcast. I hope I'm saying that right now. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. I listen to it all the time, but listening to it, you don't always pay attention to the title. You just see there's a new episode. Anyways, I think it was EJ who said, the almost way to look at Ricky Pearsall is I want to see what receiver, like what you're missing in your receiver room, and I want Ricky Pearsall to do that. And I totally agree with that. And I would back him up on that. Like I think he's got a wide-ranging enough skill set to where it's like, what do we not have? Cool, we'll have Pearsall do that. Then we get Bo Nix here at 34. I don't want to hate on Bo Nix. Like I'm not trying to hate on him. It's just kind of top of the second rounds where I would personally feel comfortable drafting him, and then gets the half round bump for quarterback play. So like 12 is outside of my range, but if Denver traded back and got him, I'd be over the moon excited for him. But quarterbacks are going to go relatively high, and he does have some scheme fits in the mid first round that make a lot of sense. Like the underneath it accuracy. I think he's a quick processor. I think his arm strength is better than some people. I think maybe overrate it, and then some people underrate it. So like I feel like I'm somewhere there in the middle, trying to find the right spot for how I feel like his arm strength is where it's at. I think it plays for the NFL level. It's above average for sure. So he can win at all three levels, and I don't have any doubt about it. I do think he is kind of maxed out, though. Like, I think at this point, we've seen the progression. We saw him go from Auburn to Oregon. That was the growth that he had. He's been playing a lot of college football. I don't know how much more meat there is on the bone at the next level. Zach Frazier, wrestling background, always excites me for offensive linemen. Probably a center only. I'd be intrigued if he could play guard, but the arm length will probably limit that. But movement skills check out, and again, the physicality, body positioning, pad level, all that stuff really checks out. And really like Zach Frazier, late first, early second. I'm fine with it. Chop Robinson, uber athletic edge, and I think really stops the run at a high level. I don't think he's a project when it comes to his pass rush moves, but it's not necessarily starting from the ground up, but it's not necessarily too far from the ground either. Hopefully that makes sense. Like he's not total moldable ball of clay. Like I almost think like Keon White from last year, where it's like you're gonna have to do some work with this guy. I think Chop's a little further along than that, but super twitchy athlete. That in and of itself is going to have him in this first round mix. Kingsley Suamataia, Tyler Guyton, two developmental plays at tackle. I like Suamataia just a little bit more. He's played both left and right tackle over the last 2 years. Guyton's been a one-year starter, so I like Suamataia as my project tackle. Keon Coleman, I like the gauntlet drill. I like the contested catch ability. I like the size. And now that he's not a student athlete, and he's not also going back to Michigan State playing football, playing basketball. He can just solely put his attention on becoming a better route runner. And I think by the end of year one, honestly, we'll be able to see his growth in that department. But with his vertical field stretching ability and his ability to go up and win in the air and his physicality and all that stuff, you add a dig route and a slant. DBs are going to be on their toes. And a curl, like you're going to have enough diversity there to keep DBs honest. Christian Haynes, I saw Jordan Reed had him at 39 on the big board, and I was like, damn, somehow someone's higher than I am. But that's okay. I love the movement skills, great fit into a zone blocking scheme, mean streak to go with it. He's not just fast and athletic and going to kind of create some space for your back. Like, he's going to have that tenacity and that fight in him, too. So, yeah, coming from UConn. But I think, man, if he goes in the first round, it's a little bit higher than I have him on my big board. But if he's the surprise first-round pick this year, I'm not hating on it. And actually, I'm probably really fired up that the league sees it similar to the way I do. Max Melton, inside out flex for a corner, like the press ability. The arm length checked out at the combine, which gave me kind of reassured me he could play on the outside. High quality athlete. Another guy with a lot of fight in him. He's not going to lose 2 reps in a row. And almost on that physicality note, plays bigger than his size too. So long speed, arm like checks to play outside, really physical, really tenacious dude. I like Max Melton a ton. Blake Corum's my top back. Love the vision, love the contact balance. Felt like he got back that short area juice to win in a phone booth towards the end of this last season for Michigan. It was all over his tape in 2022. I think he's 100% healthy. I think he's the best back in this year's class. Mike Sanders, still one of my favorite slots, just a natural playmaker, got his nose in the mix of everything, hands on footballs, great tackler, willing tackler at that note, can play zone, can play man, and just take away the easy throws over the middle of the field. Like Mike Sanders still a ton. He's another guy where if somebody takes him in the late first, I'm not going to see any complaint. Like if San Francisco were to pull the trigger on that, his playmaking ability in that defense, consider me interested. Darius Robinson just ahead of Tavondre Sweat. Let's just talk about Sweat. I'm not accounting the DWI. Like I said, I don't get to interview these guys, so character is a tough thing for me to measure. But just the on-tape stuff, I think there's a nice pass rusher on top of the best pure nose tackle, two-gapping, run-stuffing guy in this class. So I just hope the character stuff comes along. Darius Robinson is ahead of him, so let's talk about him now. Flexible outside-inside guy. And I think that's kind of the way I look at him. Some of these guys are inside that can play out. I think he's an outside guy that can move interior. But yeah, I think this last year at Missouri really sold me on him. The great week that he had at the Senior Bowl as well. Nice numbers from the Pro Day. He's just really crushed this process. I think he's a rock solid day 2 pick. I'm not quite there with the first round hype for him. But man, like if your team takes him somewhere in that 39 to 45 range, you're like, damn, we just got a nice solid starter. And in the second round, like, that's nothing to scoff at. Then we get TJ Tampa at 46. Yeah, maybe the Pro Days numbers are a little lacking. There's not a whole lot of track records of guys who are 4.5, 5.40 or slower, but most of the guys who are typically TJ Tampa size 6'1", 6'2", have those long arms and a lot of experience in zone coverage. So maybe that ultimately, because of the 40, is the fit at the next level, and he doesn't get to play a lot of man press, and maybe that's why we didn't see him play more man press. He looks faster on tape than what the measured 40 was at the Pro Day. So that's a little disappointing. But if he's a zone heavy guy, I mean, the NFL generally is like, even like the most man heavy team is running at like 40-45% of the time. So it's a primarily zone league right now, so no matter what, he'll have his suitors. Brayton Fisk, probably not going to be much in the way of a run stopper because of the arm length, but love the first step, get off, and especially Louisville, you just see him running circles around their offensive line, and if you get him into a defense that will utilize stunts and twists, good luck, because the guy can move so well for someone as big as he is. And another guy that Western Michigan to Florida State, I love these guys who go from small school to bigger school and handle that leap in competition. Peyton Wilson, Trey Benson, we finally get a linebacker, and Trey Benson, I apologize, is not an edge rusher. There's always one typo in here. Just pretend that says running back. So we get RB2 right behind LB1, so these are the two positions, and safety, then Tyler Nubin. These three position groups are a little weak for me this year, but I like Wilson's kind of immediate impact that I think he could have. The medical stuff is definitely a concern. He plays a little high, which especially with shoulder injuries in his background, it's like, let's try to get that pad level a little bit lower. I know you're probably a little hesitant about it, trying not to re-aggravate that injury, but love the downhill speed that he plays with. Trey Benson, love the big playability that comes with him. I think he's got more receiving upside at the next level. Don't know why Florida State didn't take advantage of that, but also really solid vision, good contact balance, good elusiveness. I mean, just a really solid RB2 in this year's class. Tyler Nubin, my top safety, not by much over Jaden Hicks. They're both kind of at tier 1, but I like Nubin as that center field playmaking, ball hawking safety. I think he's got great instincts and plays faster than that 4.6 40. Chris Jenkins, just a rock in the middle of the defensive line, going to be a high-end run stopper. Don't think he'll be much in the way of a pass rusher, and that's part of why Fisk is ahead of him. Give me the pass rusher over the run stopper, but hey, look, ask the Chargers. If you're giving up 5 yards a rush per carry, then teams are just going to spam it. So, Chris Jenkins does bring a lot of value, because if you have a defense that struggles with that, he's your answer. Javon Bullard, man, just get this man at the line of scrimmage. He'll blow up tackles even with his size. He wants his nose in every single play. And that's I don't know the trait, I don't know what I want to call it, but there's certain slot guys where it's like they want to be involved in everything, and I love that. They don't wait for the fight to come to them. They go and get the fight. Javon Bullard epitomizes that. And also, you see at the Senior Bowl, the one-on-ones, he's sticky in coverage, man. So man zone, I like him either way coverage wise, but just keep this guy in the middle of your defense, close to the line of scrimmage. I want him involved in as many plays as possible. Jermaine Burton just ahead of Roman Wilson. I think Burton's a slightly better player. I still like Roman Wilson, but both bring an abundance of speed and deep route running prowess. Like the hands on both these guys, two sure-handed guys. Burton really has more years of production, but the character concerns are definitely there. But again, I can't weigh that positively or negatively for these guys, because honestly, if so, Wilson would definitely be ahead of Burton. He feels like a high character guy, but also 1 year of production for Wilson. That's part of why Burton does get the bump. But I like these guys a ton. I definitely think Wilson gets drafted ahead of Burton, though. Spencer Rattler, partially because of the QB bump, but yeah, I think late second, honestly. I think, I wouldn't hate it. I think he's really matured a ton from the QB1 days, which, damn, if you guys saw me when I was 17, believe it or not, I talked faster then than I do now, which that's hard to believe in and of itself. But I was a bit of a pompous prick, if that can surprise you. And I had an even bigger ego than I do now, So, and we all change, we all grow, and I because I'm not drafting 18-year-old Spencer Rattler, So let's evaluate who he is now. He was the Senior Bowl player of the game too. I think he played a pretty solid game there. And in that game in specific, just did the boring stuff, did the easy minutia of the position. And I know he's a natural thrower of the football with a big arm. He can do the extra, the wow stuff. It's, man, if this guy's matured, can be a guy that we can trust in the locker room, and he's taking the easy stuff, we might have that guy who we all thought should be the first pick in 2022, which I'm hoping that for him. And it feels like, New England, third round, if they don't go quarterback. If they trade out of 3, could they do that? The Giants, if they don't get a quarterback in the first round, who's going to get Rattler? I'm really intrigued by what that's going to end up being. My 2 Xavier receivers, I'll give Worthy the leg up because he's done it in a variety of different roles, multiple years of production. At Texas, I think his best years were when he was kind of designated deep threat 3 years ago, and then this last year where they used him a little bit more as a volume receiver. They found that mix between deep threat, yak, and wanting him involved in more kind of the mundane stuff. Xavier Legette, 1 year wonder, so again, that's kind of the difference here. Same thing with Burton and Wilson. If you do it for more years, I'm going to prioritize that. But Leggett, man, A.J. Brown clone, sub 4.40, a tank to bring down after the catch. There's a lot to like about Xavier Leggett. It's an insane receiver class. Chris Braswell, I think he's kind of coming into his own, man. I think by year 2, if he goes into a 3-4 defense, you're going to fully see the work that Nick Saban started, and we got to see a little bit of this 1 year where he gets to be a starter. Again, of Raheem Morris, and the Falcons draft him in the second round, or if he goes to the LA Rams in the second round, or someone like that who's running a 3-4, by year 2, year 3, I think we're going to start to see Braswell on the upside that people started this process by talking about. It feels like his name's cooled off, but I think he's done a whole lot of work to transition into a 3-4 body, has experience dropping into coverage. So again, get him into a 3-4. The athletic abilities are there. I just think it's been a transition period for him, and now he's just got to get some reps in that body type and in that scheme. And again, by year 3, I think he's going to become a really solid player. I didn't mean for this much of a gap between Peyton Wilson and Edgerrin Cooper. It's just, a lot of receivers to talk about. I like Chris Jenkins, just outside the top 50, all that sort of stuff. But Edgerrin Cooper is also a tier 1 linebacker for me, so, this linebacker class isn't all that great, and maybe I could have moved Wilson down a little bit more. But nevertheless, I like the upside that comes with Cooper. Probably a drafted stash guy for me, because I think it's going to take 2 years before we really see it fully come together. Another guy who's kind of a 1 year wonder, but I like the athleticism. I like the wingspan. I think there's something to work with there. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Junior Colson, just kind of the opposite end of that. He might be a maxed out dude, but he's just a sound, instinctual football player, especially against the run, crashing downhill, fills in run lanes at a high level. And I think enough athletic juice to be competent in coverage. I don't know if he'll ever be a high-end player there, but just does the little things right and won't be out of position, which for a linebacker nowadays, they're the position getting attacked with these RPOs and attacking the middle of the field for offenses. They want to pick on linebackers. So if you have a guy who doesn't make mistakes, doesn't make silly stuff, and just does the little things right, brings a lot of value. JT Sanders, really nice showing at the Shrine Bowl. I see a nice solid sized athlete with good route running, solid hands, and a different offense, or a different year at Texas where there's less receiver talent to go around. This guy puts up some big production, and he gets a lot more love from everyone else. So clear tight end 2 for me. Kyrie Jackson, I'm intrigued by big athletic tall corner, so 6'3" with his athleticism. You've got me listening. And whether it's the broad jump at the 40, I think there's something about him playing some man press that would be really, really fun, especially at 6'3" with that arm length. So, like Kyrie Jackson a ton. Cooper Beebe, Zach Zinter, just think high floor interior offensive lineman, one who plays left guard, one who plays right. Both have a mean streak about them, can move guys in the run game. But I love Beebe as a pass protector, and I think Zinter more than holds up on his own in pass pro. So I like these guys a ton, and I don't know why, but they've been kind of lost in the shuffle, it feels like. Renardo Green, sticky man coverage corner. corner, solid prototypical size, good athlete to go with it. I'm kind of waiting to see what he looks like in zone coverage, but I may look back at this and be like, damn, he should have been 20 spots higher, and I wouldn't doubt it. Javon Baker, Johnny Wilson, they do it with different body sizes, but Baker may not wow you with athleticism, but another guy that just plays the position at a high level, does the little stuff right, great releases at the line of scrimmage, can go pluck it out of the air, good enough size to rely on that consistently, and also good weight mass to go do that. If you're going to do it, you can't be 173 pounds, spoiler alert, for the guy here at the bottom of the screen. Not that that's all of Troy Franklin's games, but I'm just using that as an example. You got to have some mass, you got to have some strength. Baker brings that to the table. Johnny Wilson's such an interesting, 6'6", 230, and he moves well for that size, man. He's just he's a unicorn of a receiver, really he is. And I don't know the next time I'm going to get the chance to draft someone who looks like Johnny Wilson, so I take a shot on it early third. Jalen Wright, big play running back whose vision is not bad. Sometimes with these explosive backs, it's like, oh man, if they could just see the hole and hit it, they'd run for 2,000 yards. I think Wright's got pretty solid vision and honestly enough body mass to kind of bounce off of would-be tacklers too, so not quite a complete back, well-rounded, does everything at a high level, but when you got that explosiveness and you do everything else pretty well, it plays, especially in a zone blocking scheme. I'd love to see it. Or a team with a mobile quarterback where, like, Lamar in Baltimore or Kyler Murray in Arizona. That's one I mock a ton, where it's like, there's no right answer here. No matter what, a dynamic bulk here is getting the ball in their hands. What do I do here? And I'd love putting a defense and sticking them between that rock and hard place. Troy Franklin, again, I don't hate Troy Franklin. He was like tier 4. I think he could be a really solid number 3, maybe a decent number 2. I just worry about the hand size at 9 inches and... and then the 173 pounds. I do think he's a lot of... I think he has a great understanding for running routes, and he is sudden out of his breaks. I think you really see that deep down the field, but also, like, if he doesn't completely lose a corner and it becomes a game of contact and he's got to go up and win in the air, I just don't know how consistently he's going to rely on that. So I think he needs to be in an offense that teams are going to put him in motion and honestly use him as a yak weapon and let him run some underneath drag routes and just give him the ball in space and let him be a freaky fast athlete who can make dudes miss with the ball in his hands. I think that's the best spot. I don't know how much of the deep downfield stuff that you're really going to get at the next level because he is 173 pounds. Kalen Carson, 4'4", 840 is good enough for me. May not be electric fast, but it's good enough. And almost 200 pounds at 6 foot. I mean, he plays with a ton of physicality, and I love his, 4'4", 8 might be kind of cutting it close, but like man press, I could see that. Quarters and kind of throwing him sometimes at the line of scrimmage to jam a dude. I'm intrigued by that. Cover 3, you can do some of the same stuff. But yeah, I just want this dude's physicality. And in the third round, if you're kind of lacking that like tone setting corner, the guy who can bump and run with some other bigger physical receivers, this is your guy to target in the third. Ruka Roro, versatile defensive lineman, probably more outside in flex, so I kind of wish I put him in the edge group, but I don't know. I had more names I want to talk about in the edge group. IDL class gets kind of thin by the 13, 14, 15th name you get to, so that I did kind of cheat the system there, but also did a lot in the B gap at Clemson, so but I love his length, and I really think he could be an Eric Armstead replacement for San Francisco if they wanted to look at that. He could be an eventual Charles Omenihu replacement for Kansas City if they want to do that at 64, so a lot of different teams are going to prioritize his frame. Jonah Ellis, he may be a DPR. We'll see if he can add mass, but his pass rush repertoire is going to play right away. So if he's this year's B.J. Ojolari, so be it. If he's this year's Nick Bonito, I'm all for it. I take him early third if you're looking for some immediate juice on the edge. Kamari Lassiter, you can see I have him as a slot. I just don't think 4.6 40 is going to work. And where TJ Tampa can get away with 4.55 at 6'2 with his arm length, Kamari Lassiter at 6 foot, shorter arms, and a slower 40, it's just not going to play. But had the best 3-cone of any of the corners. So let's move this guy into the middle of the field, get that lateral movement skills, that change of direction skill set, and he's got a great feel for coverage too. So in a man coverage heavy defense, him from the slot, oh my God, that could be problematic for opposing offenses. Kieran Amagaji, I like the upside here. Love the frame, love the strength. It's just really 1 year of proper coaching. If he gets with one of the best defense or offensive line coaches, like if New England could somehow talk Scarnecchia to come back and be an advisor, or if he goes to Cleveland, I've been mocking that a ton. But one of these teams that can draft and develop dudes at a high level, look out, because this guy has everything else you want. I just think it takes 1 year of coaching, and then we could see what the Yale product's all about. Jalen McMillan, prototypical power slot, 6'1", 205, I think he's a bigger Christian Kirk. I think he's a sharp, quick, shifty guy. I like the yards after the catch skill set, especially at 6'1", 205. Most slot guys, you're like, okay, don't let him get me in a phone booth. And McMillan may not be as shifty as Christian Kirk, but he's got a little bit of that. But also, it's like this guy could drop his shoulder and just run through me if I'm like not thinking about it. And I love that diversity he brings as a yards after the catch weapon. Elijah Jones, a lot of ball production this last year, breakout season, sticky in man coverage. Feel like he's a man coverage corner first, but also good enough frame and athleticism that I wouldn't doubt me that if he could be a solid zone fit as well. Andrew Phillips, just man, if this guy had more ball production, he's probably a lot higher on most people's boards. I think he's a more twitched up Roger McCreary to kind of steal Dane Brugler's comp for him. Love the lateral movement skill set, and for the ball production, I think Kentucky honestly just told him to play the receiver instead of the ball, because sometimes if you play the ball, college level receivers will still hold on to it just because their hands are strong enough. You're run-of-the-mill college, receiver. I feel like if you nudge them, you bump them, you affect their body balance and their body strength in general. That'll be enough to throw them off. So I almost feel like college-wise, that's a quicker avenue for forcing incompletions, and I feel like that's the way he was coached up. I see nothing to think that this guy won't be a playmaker at the next level. There's no reason for him not to be just as big of a playmaker as Mikey Sanders still. It's a production on my part, so that's why he's a little bit lower, but I'd be pounding the table for him late second, early third. Jaden Hicks, my other safety. So again, I don't mean to have 29 spots of difference between him and Tyler Newman. In retrospect, I'd move him and Wilson back, but if I don't finalize this stuff, it's going to get tinkered with up until the minute the draft starts, so you just gotta let it be in the ether. But Jaden Hicks is another tier 1 safety for me. I like him a little bit more as a strong safety than a free safety, but he has played both at Washington State, and he has the best 40 of any of the top guys in my safety rankings, 4.47 40 times. So if you feel like he can play over the top, then that brings even more value, and he should definitely be about like 10 spots higher. Patrick Paul comes in at 80. It's nothing against Patrick Paul, high floor guy, love the arm length, and I just feel like he's maxed out. We know who he is. He's gonna be a solid pass protector, not much in the way of an awesome mover, and because of that, probably a gap scheme guy, and probably going to an offense where they primarily focus on passing the rock, which if you're Kansas City, I don't see why you don't like Patrick Paul. Marshawn Nealon here at 81. I've been saying this. I feel I would take my swing of the bat on him, 70s, 80s. If someone wants to do it in the first round, by all means, that's your risk to take. Or if someone wants to do it in the second round, hey, go for it. Late second, I could, like Detroit at 61. I don't hate that whatsoever, and I've mocked that a ton. But I like the bull rush, 6'3", 275, good size, and there's not a whole lot of guys built like that in this class, so he's definitely a bit of a project, but by year 2, 3, maybe year 4, but I bet by year 3 specifically, you're getting a pretty solid pass rusher. And again, it's going to take the right defensive line coach, but if you get him in the right environment, year 3, he could be a really solid big body power rusher. Blake Fisher, I like the athleticism, and I like the talent, and it just didn't come together to make him an elite player at Notre Dame, but another guy who I think could end up being a better pro than he was in college. Just going to take the right offensive line coach, but like the movement skills, like the frame. He checks a lot of boxes. It's just like, why wasn't this guy great, especially at a school like Notre Dame? That's kind of what I feel like is dinging his stock the most. Brandon Dorlitz, this guy's probably more inside with outside flexibility, so 3-4 D end. 4-3 D tackle, probably kind of that 3 tech spot. It's where I feel most comfortable with him. Enough play strength to be a high level run defender, and not going to wow you with athleticism as a pass rusher, but again, strength plays on his size, plays on his side, and the hand fighting. I think he's got a pretty solid repertoire of moves he can go to, and he won't let an offensive lineman get their hands on him. Eric All, I'm a big Eric All guy. I skipped Cedric Van Pran, just a rock solid, steady center. I think can fit into a zone scheme. You might be pushing him to his limits on an outside zone scheme, but if you're just running zone, like I think the Steelers, Arthur Smith, that can make a lot of sense. And also a ton of play strength, and wants to bury dudes in the dirt. So just kind of a jack of all trades center, but definitely probably a better gap scheme fit, but I think he can play in a zone scheme at the same time. Eric All, love the movement skills, love the route running, yards after the catch ability. It's just going to come down to, can this guy stay healthy? If so, I think he becomes one of the steals of the draft. Ennis Rakestraw Jr., just a good football player, not going to wow you with size or athleticism, but just does the little things right. Inside-out flexibility means a lot to me as well. Ben Sinnott, love the 3-cone and that type of shifty ability to move on and cut on a dime over the middle of the field specifically has got me interested. Not the biggest dude, and maybe blocking could be a concern for some teams, but just as a smooth-moving athlete over the middle of the field for pass-happy offense makes a lot of sense. Malik Washington, yeah, man, and you could tell me he should be 10 spots higher, and I'm not against it either, but if he's 6'2", we're talking about him 60 spots higher, 70 spots higher potentially. But man, just plays the position such a high level. Kind of has that Jahan Dotson ability where it's like, why are you that size winning in jump ball spots? That's kind of amazing. But I think it's the ball tracking. I think it's the hand size and the grip strength to go with it. Sharp route runner, football smart. Good yards after the catch guy. I mean, just jack of all trades. He's small, so he's a little bit down the board. Roger Rosengarten could have been a mid-first round pick next year. Rock solid all year long until that national championship game where Michigan just used him as a turnstile to get to Michael Penix Jr. Other than that game, though, really solid player, good blend of movement skills, and a solid base to anchor. Adisa Isaac can win in a variety of ways. I just don't think he has that trump card, but good arm length, good bend, good athleticism, good first step juice. And I think at Penn State played the run pretty well. We'll see how that 250 to 255 frame plays the next level. Gabriel Murphy, short arms, but yeah, Laiatu Latu Diet Coke version, like just kind of a poor man's version of that. If you missed out on Latu in the first round, but you liked him, take this dude in the third or fourth and count your blessings. But love Gabriel Murphy's move set and in-game athleticism. I feel like he's a better athlete there too. Just may not play on early downs because of the arm length. But him as a DPR, sign me up. Jamari Thrash, like the deep speed, like the deep route running as well. Really shined at the Senior Bowl there, winning in some one-on-ones. And I like the yards after the catch ability too. I just think he's got more receiver nuance to his game than Malachi Corley. Corley probably the better yak weapon, but we're drafting him to play receiver. Mitchell Schwartz, I kind of got excited about what he could be after the combine, and he didn't know how to play receiver, so all of it was for naught. And I'm not saying that's going to be Malachi Corley, but I've been kind of scared off by that body type and by that receiver archetype. Ray Davis, just a rock solid guy. Hasn't done anything to ruin his stock throughout this process. No one's talking about him. I just think he does a lot of the little things right. There's a lot of really nice depth, late third, fourth, fifth round. I didn't even talk about Isaiah Davis in my offensive position rankings, but Bucky Irving's just on the outside looking in. Tyrone Tracy, Braylon Allen wasn't in my top 10, but I like him for a certain scheme fit. And as well as Isaiah Davis is like a day 3 sleeper. So yeah, a lot of really nice value on day 3 for this running back class. Tez Walker, straight line fast with a good frame, so I'm willing to take a shot on him late third. Like the Chiefs replacing MVS, why not take a shot on him? Some team in the fourth who's just like, man, we don't have that straight line fast guy. Like if the Cardinals don't, if they go Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4 and then no one else, like if Tez falls to them in the fourth round, go ahead, take it. And let him run clear out routes to open the middle of the field more for Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that's going to have to be where you start with Tez, and then maybe we can get a little bit more nuance out of his game. Edifon Olafosio, kind of a draft and stash linebacker, another one for me where I like the athleticism, like the frame. Hot and cold tape, though, so I feel like he's going to need some coaching. Theo Johnson right now, probably more of athletic, big body, seam running tight end, which will attract some teams. That's really all they want in their tight end. But I think there's enough there. He didn't get us the 3-count time, which maybe that means there is something to that, and he's not super shifty and can't cut on a dime. But that's why I want to draft him in the third round, fourth round, and find out, right? And at the worst, he's an athletic, straight line, fast guy, and will attack the middle of the field anytime defenses give it to us. But hopefully there's a little bit more to add to his game. Jaron Jones, I think a nice man coverage specialist on the inside, kind of like Renardo Green just from the slot here. TBD on what he's going to look like in zone coverage, but if you run a lot of man coverage, play this guy on the inside. I'm looking at you, Dallas, at 87. I think he'd be a great fit. Cam Hart, big body corners. I'm a sucker for someone who's a 6'3 corner. Love the arm length, and I think really looked really fluid on the on-field drills at the combine. I liked what I saw at the Senior Bowl as well. May not be like the world's greatest athlete, but I think a fluid mover and can play in a variety of coverages too, just so jack of all trades. Maybe another guy kind of like Adisa Isaac. Doesn't have a trump card, but just does a lot of little things right. Michael Hall Jr., just a one-on-one winner. 280 pounds is going to have him be a bit of a limitation against the run, to say the least. And because of that, he probably won't play. But, dude, it gets to 3rd and 10. I'm looking at Michael Hall, and I'm saying, go get the quarterback. Because he will win one-on-ones, and he's so fast and athletic that the fastest way to get to a quarterback is in a straight line, right? Like, fastest way to get from A to B is in a straight line. And for a quarterback, that's from interior pressure. And he's going to win one-on-ones, and he's super quick, and he's super fast for someone who is 280 pounds. So if he beats the guy, he's got a straight shot at the quarterback. Look out, opposing QBs. And then Michael Pratt's going to round us out. QB bump does kind of get him in here. There's a few other guys I could have thrown in here, but he may not wow you with arm strength, but man, he does everything else right. I think a solid processor, multiple years of starting success, really turned Tulane around. He was a big part of that. And I really like the touch and accuracy. And that's stuff where like touch is like you either got it or you don't. Maybe you could say with J.J. McCarthy, he's going to get coached up because he just needs a little bit more time and he's on the young side. But it's one of those guys where like Past like 22, if you don't have touch, I'm just not thinking you're adding it. Michael Pratt plays a lot of touch, and he's got a lot of accuracy. So like West Coast schemes, I think he's I can totally see where he becomes like the next generation's like Gardner Minshew. Not gonna wow you with like arm strength or athleticism, but he's good enough to escape the pocket and extend a few plays, be kind of scrappy, find that goal line touchdown, but just will make nice throws over the middle of the field, hit your receiver as they're running, to get a little bit more yak out of it. You can layer it over a linebacker. He'll just do those little things. And again, I can totally see where he becomes like the next version of Gardner Minshew. But guys, let me know what you think about my finalized 2024 big board. Who do I have too low? Who do I have too high? Let me hear your thoughts down below. And I have 7 blue chippers. Let me know how many blue chippers you think there are in this class. I think that's a fun conversation. And let me know who they are as well. So if you got 5, who are those 5? If you got 7 like me, who are those 7? Love to hear it down below in the comments section. Real quick, if you're still with me, really appreciate you watching this deep in the video. Quick reminder, you probably already know this because you're still watching, but we're going to be doing YouTube Shorts grading every first round pick on Thursday night for the NFL draft. And then we're going to be doing a handful of reactions for day 2 picks as well. Really excited to cover the top 100 of this year's NFL draft, and hopefully you guys are back around the channel checking out those YouTube shorts and giving me some feedback on the grades that I give out on day 1 and 2 of the NFL draft. Hope you all are excited for the NFL draft. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and until next time, my name is Tej, and I am signing off.